let's start with the entrepreneurial mindset part and the founder psychology. And that's literally what I said before. That's pillar number 4 from Freedom Entrepreneurship. So just as a short reminder, Freedom Entrepreneurship is how we can have both growth and freedom, or basically how we can grow and scale our business without losing our mind or freedom or go nuts, however you want to frame it. First pillar was business architecture. Second pillar was growth and scaling. Third pillar was AI as a freedom lever. And the fourth pillar is founder psychology and entrepreneurial mindset. Yes. Actually, I became an entrepreneur at the age of 8. And I had no idea that this was happening. It literally took me nearly 30 years later that at some point with reflection, I figured out where my personal entrepreneurial drive came from, or how this basically came together. And to basically go back is, when I was 8 years old, my childhood stopped. And back then, I really remember it like it was yesterday. My mom basically was sitting next to me on the bed and she started to cry. And I had no idea what's going to happen, because even as a young boy, if mom is crying, you don't know what's going on. And then at some point, she basically could start to speak, and she said, "Dad will never come home again." And I was sitting there and, huh? What? I just did not understand, because I could not process this information. And I asked her, yeah, but okay, when will I see him again? Okay, he's not coming home today. Is he going to be back tomorrow? And she said, no, Dad will never come home again. And at some point, with a lot of crying in between again, she said something to me where she said, you know what? When we are going to stick together, we are going to come over that. And from now on, you are going to be responsible for the house and the garden. And I need to go to work full time, because I need to take care of the money that we have food in the house. And I was sitting there as a young 8-year-old boy and looking at my mom and said, okay. And in that moment, I stopped being a kid, I skipped being a young teenager, and I became responsible for about 2,200 square foot house and about a 5,000 square foot garden at the age of 8. Because mom told me. And I did it. And in that moment, whatever changed internally and whatever changed also from my mindset, I literally basically detached emotionally or topic-wise from all the other boys in my age. Because I needed to go home and I needed to mow the grass. I needed to go home and figure out what is growing and how I treat the bushes based on the time of the year, and I needed to go home and clean the house. So I did not think about going for a soccer game or playing to the playground and all of these things, because mom told me, you are the man in the house now, you're going to be responsible for these things. And this, as you probably can imagine, caused some frictions with same age people. And pretty much in the same year, it started in school that they started to bully me. And bullying became, from month to month, from year to year, massively worse. That at the age of 11 years, I wanted to kill myself the first time. Because it became so bad and so negative that my self-worth, my self-esteem, nothing was left. And I had the feeling that I have nobody where I can talk to. because mom was not around anymore. She was working. When she came home, she basically brought food, and then she was falling asleep next to me. And I took care of the house, and then basically I was sitting in front of the TV. Mom was sleeping next to me, and depending on what was going on in the TV, I watched one film or maybe two films or maybe till 3 in the morning, the films. And then I woke my mom up and I brought her to bed, and a couple of hours later I got up, made my breakfast, and got into school again. And then at the age of 11, I even had a very bad accident in sports, where I had a massive eye accident. So probably you see sometimes when I'm reading something like that, because since then I have an issue that my eyes cannot really synchronize. So if I read something, it's just not possible to do it with both eyes. So I can decide if I do it with the left eye or with the right eye. And fortunately enough, I did not follow through with the thoughts I had at the age of 11. But it went on, and it went on, and it went on. And at the age of 13, that's a fun story, because I was failing so bad in English. I was failing so bad when it comes to English, that my English teacher told me back then, if you need English somewhere in the rest of your life, you will never make it. And I would love to have this English teacher in my life now to tell her, you fucking stupid prick, look what I am doing, because actually 85% of my life I'm talking English. And I know I messed the grammar up, and I know I'm doing a lot of mistakes, and you know what? I just don't care.
Fuck them.
Yeah?
Because perfection is the enemy of the good.
You are right, but they do not teach you that in school though, unfortunately. Yeah, but she told me that, yeah, and so really motivated. That was an amazing information, and you see, I processed it, I really kept it, I still know it, and I still talk about it.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. And fortunately enough, a couple of years later, so at the age of 15, I finally switched school, and I finally got out of these assholes who bullied me for 6 years in a row. And I did not have them around anymore. But I still never felt connected to the same age. I still never had a connection that I know what I can do or what I should do actually. So at the age of 16, I started to write the first business plans, because I started to do the technology for wood and a college for wood technology. So I actually learned on how to build houses like that out of wood, or how to be a carpenter, or how to be a roofer. So how to build a roof. Yeah, that was the school basically.
Nice.
Yeah, that was the school. And I always wanted to be an entrepreneur when I finished the school. So I started to build a couple of business models at the age of 16. And while the others were doing whatever, yeah, I was writing business plans now. Unfortunately, I was also starting with the bullshit stuff. So I was starting with a lot of partying and with a lot of drinking. Why? Because I wanted to get out of my life. I just wanted to find the exit. I just wanted to find a solution on how I can exit myself. And alcohol became the solution. So this got worse and worse, and pretty soon, very bad. So at the age of 17, I was an alcohol addict the first time. And alcohol addict the first time meant that I was having a bottle of vodka, pure, every single day before I even started to go out and go party. So that was the amount what I was drinking back then. And I still went to school and I still worked on business. I have no idea how my body did that, but he did pretty well and I survived. And at some point I was literally just standing in front of the mirror and I was watching my face and I was telling myself, Stephan, if you do not stop drinking, this is going to become a serious issue. And somewhere my subconsciousness got the strength that I literally, in that moment, I stopped drinking. And I did not touch a sip of alcohol for the next 1.5 years. Not even for birthday, not even champagne or something like that to cheer for birthday, no glass of wine, nothing. 1.5 years. And I continued to work on, okay, what can I do for business? But I was constantly frustrated because all my business models, what I built, meant, okay, I'm going to be 19 years of age when I am done with this education. Then I'm going to go to the bank and I'm going to request 1 million or up to 10 million in starting capital based on my business model. And I'm going to go to the bank and say, hey bank, here is Stephan, I never worked, I will never work for somebody else, but I have this great idea, give me 10 million to start a business. Yeah? And that was basically the break point for my models back then, because of course no bank would have ever done that. So I was very frustrated because I did not saw a solution on how I can get into entrepreneurship. And literally a couple of weeks later, I found a solution that I can start in the wellness industry with actually nearly zero money. And I started as a nutrition coach, as a personal trainer, and also started to sell supplements in the network marketing system. And that became my first business. And back then, my health was so devastated because I did not do a lot of good things with myself, that first and foremost, I just wanted to fix my own health issues. Because I had tremendous health issues, I was always very, very underweight. Back then I was the same size already, but I had 15 kilogram less than I had now. So I had about 50 kilogram, back then, or even less at my size, which is not a lot as a man. So I needed to fix my own health first. And I did this with the first business, and then I basically used my own story to tell others how I can help them with their nutrition, with their exercise, and also with supplements. And I founded my first business at the age of 18. That was my very first business. And of course I was super hyped, super motivated. One of the first things I did, I went back to my family and said, I don't need to finish my education, 13 years nearly, a couple of months before the final exam, by the way. And I was so excited because I have my business now. I don't need to finish this damn education. Nobody needs it anyway. Yeah. Which basically I ended up on the streets 2 weeks later because my mom threw me out of the house. Yeah. But I deserved it. Looking back, I really deserved it because I was such an asshole back then. I was such an asshole. Yeah. But why I was such an asshole? Because I needed to protect myself, and I never had somebody to talk to, and I was always disconnected from the people around myself. And the asshole basically protected me, that I do not need to show that I have zero self-esteem, zero self-confidence, nothing. And then I finished the school, but I immediately went into entrepreneurship. And when I started entrepreneurship full-time, again, a very interesting example was, I wanted to invest 3,000 euros back then to basically have a better opportunity afterwards. And I went to mom because I did not have the money back then. And I went to mom and I asked her if I can borrow this 3K. And I also said, okay, this is the payback plan, and this is the interest you are going to earn and what I'm going to give you back. And the interesting part is, she said, okay, we need to talk to dad, which was completely ridiculous because my dad left when I was 8 years old. So it was nearly 10 years or over 10 years. They never made a decision together. Yeah. And we literally had a conversation. And actually my mom, my dad, they were sitting next to me, and I asked them if I can borrow this. And I explained them that I want to have this 3K for XYZ for the business, to invest it in the business. And my dad literally sat there looking at my mom. I was sitting here and said, do you think we should give him the 3K to see him fail? Because he's never going to make it anyway. I was sitting there and literally word by word, do you think we should give him the 3K to see him fail? And that was a situation that pretty much triggered something in me, where I said, okay, you know what? Whatever this fucking universe is going to throw in my face, I will push through. I will make it. And I will prove that he's wrong, and I will make it. So back then, it was, in my opinion, I would never do this to my kid, because I'm also a single dad, I'm also a father. So I raised my kid a little bit differently, let's call it that way. Yeah. Looking back, I'm not, I'm not angry or something like that anymore, because I know it caused something in me. Back then it was a horrible situation, but it basically helped me to push through. And now a little bit more fast forward into that. With this very, very positive motivational upbringing and starting point, at the age of 19, I was in burnout the first time. Literally completely messed up, because I was pushing so hard and I had no idea on how to deal with basically results, energy, not achieving anything, and basically literally going down the rabbit hole in a negative way. And what brought me out back then was focusing on my own shit and focusing on my health and small steps and one step at a time. Because again, I asked for help in my family, and my family was literally laughing at me and said, come on, you are 19 years old. 19 years old do not have burnout. What the shit are you talking about? Burnout, I mean, that's 25 years ago now. Burnout was not that burnout topic what we have now. Yeah? So nobody took me serious, so okay, I needed to figure it out on my own again. And I did. But at the cost of starting to drink again, which basically got me out of burnout. But 2 years later, at the age of 21, I was an alcohol addict again, and I did not learn the lesson in the first place. So I was drinking the same amount again, same shit again, what I already did. Why? Because I did not fix the limiting beliefs and the root cause of the issue. Fast forward a little bit. Fortunately, I had the strength to do the same again. That at some point I just stopped and I did not drink over years in a row. And then at the age of 23, one of the most beautiful things happened, because I suddenly became a dad. My son was born. And I was in this relationship already 6 years, and we had an amazing communication going on, and we really wanted to build something together. And for her, the biggest dream and the biggest thing what she wanted to be a stay-home mom and take care of the kid, basically raise him. And for me it was okay. And what you also mentioned, or basically what you did, Tom, single income household. And we came to an agreement that it worked. And for me it was okay. For her it was okay. And we basically started. It worked. And 1.5 years later, she basically had a conversation with me, and she said, yeah, now she came to the realization the biggest dream is her biggest nightmare. She hates to be a mom, she hates to be at home. She basically stopped all her life for this kid and for me, and she wants to do partying again and doing drugs again and going out again and blah, blah, blah. And by the way, she already has somebody and he's going to raise my kid, so she already found a new dad for my son. And she's going to leave now.
What?
So I had another interesting conversation at the age of 25. And long story short, I told her, okay, if I cannot convince you to stay with me, please feel free to go, but you are not going to take my son away. And she left. And I was there as a 25-year-old, suddenly as a single dad, with a business, without any support, without any space in school or in kindergarten. And I again had a pretty interesting situation to solve. And fortunately at this age, our body can take a lot, really can take a lot, and can survive with a very, very little sleep and with a lot of whatever, caffeine and other things to survive. Of course, I just needed to figure it out. So I needed to find a place. I would never have been doing that. But my mom back then was 40 years, so he could not step in as grandma because she was working full time. Yeah, she could not. She would have done it, but she could not do it because she was 40 years at age, as a grandma suddenly, and she was working full time and could not take care of her grandchild. So I found a place in the morning. And I dropped him off in the morning. I got him at lunch, and we spent the afternoon. And at the moment when he was asleep, Dad was basically working and hustling and grinding again, literally till my face hit the keyboard, 7 days a week. And that was basically the start into my entrepreneurial journey. And so over the first 7 years, from the age of 18 till 25, 26, I was working as a solopreneur, and I was just trying to figure it out and more or less trying to survive. Yeah, of course, you saw a couple of things that I just shared with you. But at this age, when I was suddenly a single dad, I also made a final decision with myself. And this decision was, I am going to figure entrepreneurship out. I have no idea how this is going to happen. I have no idea how I'm going to figure it out. I have no idea how long it's going to take. I have no idea how successful I'm going to become. But I made a contract with myself. I literally said, okay, that is what I'm going to do. I don't care what others tell me. I don't care what others are doing. I'm going to figure entrepreneurship out. And one of the most beautiful things, that was whatever the universe threw into my face in the next 20 years, and it was a lot, by the way. I shared my COVID story a couple of days ago with you. But I never ever questioned that entrepreneurship is the right path for me. Of course, I questioned if this strategy is the right one, if this process is the right one, if these partners are the right one, if this product is the right one, if I need to accomplish different skills to go forward. But I never ever questioned that entrepreneurship is the right plane for me. And based on that, I started to educate myself the first time around entrepreneurship. And based on that, I started to hire the first team members. And the first team members were just contractors, because I could not afford them to hire them on a salary, but I worked with contractors. So I built the first contractors around me. And so after 7 years into entrepreneurship, I built my next company, Feel the Energy. Maybe you saw that in one of my logos, it's still around, where we did personal training, nutrition coaching, mental health training, and we also started to educate other personal trainers, nutrition coaches, mental health trainers. So what I did is, because I had a hard time of finding great talent for my contractors, I decided, okay, I educate them myself. And I also had a partnership in the first year when I founded Feel the Energy with the biggest private education company in Austria, where they also were doing this type of educations. So I did a lot of training and education. So probably you heard this saying, you really get good at something when you teach other people on how to do a specific skill or how to do a specific thing. And the interesting part was, after the first full year of my new company, my contractor went bankrupt and I lost nearly 80% of the full annual revenue, which brought me in a pretty tight situation, because cash flow was not my friend back then, as you probably can imagine. So again, I was in a situation, but now business-wise, where I could have given up, where I could have said, oh my God, I had nothing to do with the bankruptcy of my partner. I am not the person who was in charge, and I could have given up back then. But what I did is I said, okay, you know what? What you can do, I can do better. And I founded the Feel the Energy Academy. And basically, I took a lot of the customers who were basically left on the street from his bankruptcy and did not have anybody who finalized their education. And I basically took them into my educational company. And we finished their education. And suddenly, I had a pool, or basically a process, to establish my own contractors. Because when somebody did the education and went through my hands or from my team, I know that they were reliable, I know that they were good, I know what they were doing, and basically they had my touch on how to deal with customers, how to talk to customers. Yeah. And pretty soon later, I started with the first consulting project. And the first consulting project back then was actually not a consulting project. They had their headquarters just a couple of miles away from my office back then. And their head of HR actually had a meeting with me, and they said, you know what? I see what you are doing here locally with all these personal trainers, with these nutrition coaches, and we have a gym established in our headquarters, and all our employees go down to the gym in their lunch break and after work, and they are doing crazy shit, and they are hurting themselves, and they are going off for sick leave afterwards. Can you help us? So that was actually the first corporate project. So literally I just went there for myself at the beginning, but then sent in personal trainers, fitness trainers, nutrition coaches. But I saw, oh my God, there is a huge market and a huge opportunity doing something for big corporations. And I came up with an idea on, okay, how can we do more? And I started to educate myself around HR. I started to educate myself around, okay, what is turnover? What issues have big corporations? What is the HR department have as an issue? Who are the decision makers? Because I had no idea. I never saw a university from the inside. So I had no idea how a corporation works. I never worked for a big corporation, so I did not even know the structure of all of that. Yeah? But I just saw an opportunity, and I said, okay, let me figure that out. And that basically became how I started entrepreneurship and how I grew my companies. And later on, I mean, I know I skip a bunch of years now, but we started a massive project with the biggest union in Austria. So unions in Austria are basically like a governmental organization, and they are really huge, especially in the production industry. So about metal production, steel industry, food industry. So unions in Austria are a huge impact in the corporate world. And on the other hand side, also the Chamber of Commerce. So the Chamber of Commerce is also a governmental organization in Austria. So it's not like these small chambers of commerce, what you know from the US, but there is one huge big Chamber of Commerce as a governmental organization, and as a business owner in Austria, it's mandatory to be a member. So I started a huge project with them. It was over 8 years, and the purpose of this project became helping big corporates to see the value in workplace safety and in corporate wellness and corporate health management. And so they did the safety part and the consulting part, and my team, and we brought the wellness part and the health part into that. But the cool part though is, actually I got paid very few back then. But I got 20 to 30 contacts in every single seminar to decision makers of big corporates like Siemens, Toyota, Infineon, or for the Austrian companies like Post AG, Krankenanstaltenverbund, ÖBB, voestalpine, companies like that. So huge corporations with hundreds of thousands of employees. And so back then, just to give you an example, back then it was a 3-day seminar, and for the 3-day seminar, besides the hotel every costs were on me. So I needed to drive there, I needed to fly there, I needed to go there. Everything, the food needed to be financed by me. And for the full 3-day seminar, I got 500 euros, including tax, for a 3-day seminar. So I don't know if you would spend 3 days, including tax, and you need to go there with your own costs, and you need to pay for food for 500 bucks. Back then, I had the opportunity to say no, or I basically just spend everything what I get for these 3 days if I'm not eating a lot, but I got the contacts to these corporations. So the reasons I'm telling you all these details is, I hope that with some of these examples I'm giving you here, you get some ideas on how you basically can hijack your network, how you can hijack your audience, how you can hijack the market. Yeah, because I'm not going to tell this story because I want to have feelings, oh my God, Stephan had a hard 25 years or a hard 43 years. Yeah, of course, but okay, I don't care. It's my story and I own my story and I use my story, what you see. I literally use my story. But I tell you these details that hopefully you get out some golden nuggets in one of these pieces on how you can use this for yourself. And I think we talked about it yesterday with the stages, right? That you always have the opportunity to decide, do you want to make money with keynote speaking or through keynote speaking? Do you want to make money with the book or through a book? Yeah, with a book would mean I want to sell this book and I want to be Kaylin Rowland or how she is called, and I want to make billions in book sales. Okay, just very few authors are ever going to get there. Yeah, I think the average business book, I messed the number up for sure, but I think the average business book got sold 8,000 times or 800 times, a ridiculous small amount. So even if you charge 20 or 30 bucks for a business book, multiplied by 8,000, it will not basically change the rest of your life significantly. Yeah. On the other hand side, if you wrote a business book and you use it to gain trust, to establish authority, to use it as a lead magnet, that's a whole different story. Because we talked a lot about this different, about these stories on LinkedIn. One of the things what you could do, and I basically did it in the past, is you find who is the perfect custom avatar on LinkedIn, and then you basically sign your own book with a personalized note, and then you just mail it to them. And guess what this person is going to get? This person is definitely going to get the book, even if it's hard to get around the gatekeepers. But the CEO, if you mail him a book with a personal signature inside and a personal message, believe me, this person is going to get the book. And then when I call this person a week later, do you know I can get around the gatekeeper? For sure, I can get around the gatekeeper. Yeah. Same with keynote speaking. So when I started with this entrepreneurial project, or basically this corporate project, what I mentioned before, I just saw, okay, speaking on stage, I can master this craft. And I just like to speak to a small group of people, to a bigger group of people. And I just kept going and going and going and going. And when this program ran out, I needed to figure out how I can do lead generation. Because my main source of lead generation, as you probably can imagine over these 8 years, was this strategic partnership I had, because every single seminar got me 20, 30 new leads. But at the end of that, I needed to come up with a different strategy. And that was actually the birth date of the CHC Summit, what we started 10 years ago. So the main purpose 10 years ago, why we started the CHC Summit, our annual conference, was creating an event to make money through the event. Back then, I worked with a partner they said, oh, you need to sell the tickets and you need to charge it ridiculously high and on and on and on and on and on. We did it. It was very hard, but still we had 98 people showing up in our first conference, and we had an incredible cool location. So it was an in-person event. Yeah, so you know the Park Hyatt in Vienna, maybe? Yeah, so this is the hotel where we did it. So it's like an old historical palace, everything marmor and all these wooden tables, so I can show you pictures. Really awesome location. But we wanted to have the CEOs and the head of HR of these huge corporations. And if you have some sideway gig or somewhere or a cellar restaurant, nobody from these type of people would have shown up. I thought so. Yeah, so we did it over there. And we did it in person 3 times. And then COVID came around. And COVID came around a couple of weeks before we had this event lined up again. So I needed to make a decision back then. Okay, what are we going to do with our event? Because we could not do it. So most events got canceled back then. But I decided to just switch to online. And I reimbursed all the people who already paid for the in-person event back then. And I said, okay, you know what? That's an online event. We are going to take care of that. We are going to figure it out. And I decided, okay, I don't care if I make a cent with this event, because I want to make money through the event. And that became actually a huge success, because we celebrated 10-year CHC Summit 2 weeks ago, and Mark was a speaker over there. So you can share a little bit if you like later, but it was really, really awesome. Yeah. Good. That was in a nutshell.
That's quite a story.
Not in a nutshell, I know, but I really wanted to go deep here to actually show you what you can make out of setbacks. And in every single situation, I would have had the opportunity to take the easy path. I just decided, the easy path is not worth to perceive. I better get punched in the face one more time, and I better get up one more time. And no matter what this nice universe is going to throw in my face and how often I'm going to get punched in my face, I don't care, because I know entrepreneurship is my journey in life and on this planet and in this universe, and I'm going to figure it out. So I hope you get a couple of ideas or a couple of glimpses on probably how you can push through and what you can do, because we know entrepreneurship is not the easy path, but it's the worst path and the cool path. And for me personally, how we can accomplish everything what we ever can dream of in our life.